as we say as always, people are like, John, where's this or that? I have no idea. I don't know anything. I'm not in charge. I'm just the face of the franchise. And when I try to finger paint on Stephanie's Picasso, she gets after me, so I don't do that. Okay? I don't.
Mountain Man Medical has name brand proven trauma medical supplies with a price match guarantee to ensure you get the right gear at the right price. Check them out at get-asp.com/mountainman.
If you want a copy of this presentation, you can have one easy day. You can just go to get-asp.com/church-safety, and there's a link there to the PDF. I say people, they grab their phone and take a picture of it for later. I'm like, just use your browser, download the thing, and you've got it right there, PDF. Anyway, so you can have that, no problem. Church safety is a big deal to me, is one of the things that is nearest and dearest to my heart, because I believe that church should be a truly safe place. And it's a place that people should not only feel safe, but actually be safe. Now, I will say this, hopefully you catch this the way that it's intended, that there's a big difference between feeling safe and being safe. Which one's more important?
Being safe.
Is it? So that's not necessarily true. Now listen, okay, so anybody who here has anxiety flying in an airplane? I'm like, none of you people? Dang, what's going on? Now, wait a minute. Why do you have anxiety flying?
Because you can't get out. Because you can't control it.
Oh, so there's plenty of reasons, right? I suffer from turbulence anxiety. When the plane's bumping around, I'm white knuckling. Now listen, I know for a true fact that no airplane in the United States has ever been knocked out of the sky due to turbulence. Never. I also know that it, from a statistical perspective, is far more dangerous to drive to the airport than it is to fly to the destination. Those things are absolutely true. So am I safe in an airplane? Unbelievably safe in an airplane. And yet, that experience is miserable. Miserable. Now, let's translate that into a church environment. So maybe I've done everything that I can to make it safe, and it's as safe as it can possibly be, and statistically it's incredibly safe. But if I don't feel safe there, does that matter? Because am I going to be able to connect with God if I don't feel safe? No. Imagine if you're trying to make a relationship with somebody, you're trying to get to know them better, but you look, every time you look at them, you go, that person is not safe, and I do not feel comfortable in their presence. Are you going to be able to build a relationship with them? No. And similarly, they're both critically important. Okay, so actually being safe. Someone's, the other side of that is Beauty and the Beast, right? And Belle's in the very beginning of the Disney adaptation, and she's wandering through town with her nose in a book, and so she feels super safe. And there's people swarming around her, and she's in super much amount of danger that whole time, and that's not okay either. So they're both critically important. Is not just being safe, but actually helping people to feel safe in that environment. It's good. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to invest some things in you, but here's the problem, and one of the things that you're going to get out of this seminar is I'm not going to give you the answers. And the reason is I can't. All right? The only real place that I can give you those level of answers is if you're Mormon. And I mean that, and the reason, I don't mean that to be joking or whatever, but their buildings are all the same, and their leadership structure is all the same. And so I can dictate some things with same buildings and same structures. But guess what? If you're not in that tradition, your facilities are completely unique. Your leadership structure is completely unique. Your resources are completely unique. And so if I say, well, here's how you got to run your security team. Okay, but wait a minute. So now I'm predicating it on a 400-member congregation that your budget is X dollars and you have this number of people and this much resources. And you go, I don't have any of that. And so I can't give you the answers, but I can give you the questions. I can give you the principles, and then empower and encourage you to go home as a security team, whether you're all here or whether it's just you as a representative, and go from there. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, in case you don't know. I mean, it's not like anybody here probably doesn't know me at this point. I founded Active Self-Protection in 2011, but I was ordained as a pastor in 2003. Be careful with that word ordained. It means a lot to some people. I've been to ordinations that were grueling and difficult and a high standard, and I've been to ordinations that were, you're ordained. So I was ordained to pastoral ministry in 2003 by a church that no longer exists. I earned my Master's of Divinity in Biblical Communication in 2006. And I have a half of a doctorate of ministry. I got about halfway done with it and left vocational ministry, and it's a professional doctorate for pastors. So I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore. So let's stop that. And my demon mentor is a good friend of mine and is like, dude, you need to finish. Why? Well, because then people will call you doctor. And I don't want to be called doctor. That's silly. Anyway. So I do love, I tell people all the time, the perfect preparation for YouTube celebrity is a Master's of Divinity and 10 years of pastoral ministry. I mean it. And I'm not joking, and I'm not being facetious. A Master's of Divinity teaches you an awful lot about the world, not just how you see yourself, how to see Jesus, how to run an army of volunteers, how to engage people, how to be a good public speaker, how to be organized and self-motivated. And so it's perfect preparation for that. We put out 19 videos a week between the two channels at Active Self-Protection. And do you know who pushes me to do that? Nobody. So if I don't get up and do it, it don't get done. Well, then Stephanie will yell at me. So I guess that's motivation. Anyways. So in terms of qualifications on the other side of this, so I did 14 years of vocational pastoral ministry, about 14 and a half years at two different churches. The first church I pastored was a little bitty country church. It was about 25 people when we got there, about 50 when we left. 3.5 years there. When I say country church, I mean dirt parking lot, back in a rural area and outside a small town in south of the valley in Arizona. The church facility was a double-wide trailer that the church had bought from the county who had seized it when they arrested a dude for meth trafficking and manufacture. So it was literally a meth lab.
Like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, very, very much. And so then when I got there, they had renovated the inside, and the inside looked pretty good, and the outside looked like a meth lab. Which actually I thought was a pretty cool metaphor, right? Like, hey, they renovated it from the inside out, and that's how Jesus works on us, and that's pretty cool, right? By the time I left 3.5 years later, the outside, it still looked like a double wide, but it was a lot better, we worked on it as we could. And that little congregation is still going strong. Then I moved up, I found a full-time job about, in Glendale, where I pastored for about 10.5 years. It was a mostly independent church affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention. But when I say it was a Southern Baptist church, I know you have an idea in your head of what a Southern Baptist church looks like, but understand that a Southern Baptist church in Phoenix, Arizona does not look like a Southern Baptist church in Georgia. They're very different entities. And where we are the association, the Central Association of Southern Baptists is super collaborative, cooperative, but they do not get involved in your business. We do not look like what most people would call Baptists. We more look like a Bible church or a non-denominational church, such that to the point that I successfully lobbied for us to remove the word Baptist from our church name. Here's an interesting tidbit. Why does your church have a name?
So people can find it on Facebook.
So on a general sense, you said so people can find it on Facebook. Your church name is marketing. It's nothing but marketing. Because, Derek, where do you go to church?
Mid-Cities Community Church.
Okay, so the people who go to your church, you go, hey, I'll see you at Mid-Cities Community Church on Sunday. Is that what you say? No. What do you say?
See you at church.
I'll see you at church, right? So why do you have Mid-Cities Community Church? It's for people outside the church to know which one of the 58 options in town you're talking about. It's marketing.
It's for the bank account.
Yeah, so for the bank account and again, as a marketing thing, and we were when I first got there, we were West Greenway Baptist Church, and then people would show up expecting whatever they expected of Baptist church, and they almost certainly wouldn't get it. Whether it was the pastor's not wearing a suit, or the women aren't or have pants on, or God forbid shorts. It's Arizona, man. Morticians don't wear suits, okay? We had a praise band, full 5-piece praise band, and the drums, those kids. And then so plenty of people who might be a good church home for them wouldn't come because they go, oh, Baptist. And plenty of people who did show up were like, you're not Baptist. Well, I mean, we're part of the association. We participate like everybody else. We fulfill the Great Commission. That's what it's supposed to be, right? Anyways, so those are the two churches that I pastored, 14 full years of vocational ministry. Now, I've been out of vocational ministry for about 5 years. I can tell you unequivocally, I have several friends who are in pastoral ministry, and the last 2 years have burned them out to the point where I just don't know how they keep doing it. Think about it as a pastor for the last 2 years, you're in a Kobayashi Maru every single day. So the government locks everybody in their homes. So what do you do, pastor? If you say, yeah, we're going to do that and love our neighbor by staying home, you're going to alienate half your congregation and make them mad. Or if you say, no, we're staying open no matter what, and we're going to worship the Lord and our First Amendment rights matter, you alienated the other half of your congregation and made them mad. So what do you do? Fail. That's what you do. You come back together, you go, okay, so what requirements are we going to have? Are we going to have a masking mandate? Well, there's a masking mandate in place. Guess what? Which half do you want to make mad? Once vaccines rolled out, are we going to ask people to get vaccinated? No matter which side you take. And so if you go, well, I'm just going to make the best decision I can and live with that, guess what? You're going to make people angry. So I wouldn't do the job today. A lot of the middle ground, that a lot of pastors came to is, we're going to stream services for those who aren't comfortable coming and allow a lot more freedom for those who are coming. And then we found that a whole lot of people, they get out of the rhythm of church attendance, and it's no longer a part of the rhythm of their life. And so, and I think the wrong conclusion there is, okay, and they've kind of walked away from Jesus or they've backslidden in their faith. But there's a false equivocation there, okay? Going to church does not mean that you are growing as a follower of Jesus, Amen. Right? Now, it can be a very healthy part. Many of the times of great growth in my life have been in a traditional church. And why? Because I made great relationships there with people that help me see Jesus more clearly and live my life more fully for him and pattern for me what that looked like and walk with me as we went through tough stuff. So that's all really well and good. But just because somebody said, man, we're just, in a season of life where it's just not a good thing for us. Okay, that's cool, man. And I also think we found out that the church is super centered on the worship event on Sunday morning and thinking as long as I get people to that, it engages them and grows them in Christ. That's pretty false equivocation because I think that what we see is that online church ain't. People say, oh, the IRS is coming after churches. Okay, do you know 2021? Well, we'll go back before the pandemic. 2019, do you know how many churches got audited by the IRS in 2019? 2. Do you know how many churches there are in America? 2. The IRS is like, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to know anything about you. We ain't interested. Unless you do something so egregiously wrong that they have to. I can imagine those IRS agents going, I'm not taking that. You're taking that, Bill. No, you're on the bottom of the totem pole and you have a disciplinary action, so you will audit that church, buddy. And just not wanting to be that guy, right? And in the same way, to tell a church, oh, you can't say some things, just welcome to the lawsuits. I mean, the First Amendment right to free expression of worship is one of the most staunchly held things. Now, of course, you always balance the freedom of expression and worship with harm for others. If you said, yeah, we worship Molech and it's our worship right to sacrifice our children on the altar to Molech, that's what worship of Molech was, right? Well, we're going to step in as a society and say no at some level, right? So you got to watch that stuff. So a little bit more, from the firearms side, I'm a master firearms instructor. I go to gun school, I love gun school, 1,300 hours of gun school. Martial artist, 16 years of martial arts study as well. Again, from a vocational ministry perspective, I spent 14 years as a vocational pastor. I spent 9 years as a college professor. Those overlapped. I was an adjunct professor working full-time as an adjunct professor. And you go, that's not allowed. Oh, I'm well aware. But I was... For 3 of those years, I taught more units over the course of the entire year than any resident faculty did. And they just, didn't pay me a resident salary or didn't pay me any benefits or any retirement or anything because Jesus. That makes sense. And I was a seminary professor for 5 years. Now, adjunct is adjunct. Again, my average church, when I was at West Greenway, probably 100 to 150 adults in attendance. I'd grow the church up to 200 people total, and then grow it down to about 100 people, and then grow it up to about 200, and then grow it back down to 100. That's about what I did. And, if you know me from the YouTube channels. I've analyzed defensive encounters. We really only have one active killer situation in church that's been caught on surveillance footage, and that was the West Freeway Church of Christ, Jack Wilson, in White Settlement, Texas.
I know that guy who died.
One of the two ushers who died. Man, that's terrible.
I was very good friends with Tony Loves.
Man, I'm sorry for your loss.
That was a sad thing.
Oh, it's a terrible thing. I've met Jack several times. I know him. I've got his phone number. And a humble dude and a really good man who was he was up to the task that day. And I even asked Jack, he screwed a 357 SIG into that guy's ear right before he started killing more people from about 16 yards. And a little less than 16, like 15.8 yards. And that's a shot at a level of a moving target that's grandmaster level shooting. And I was like, Jack, did you honestly think you were putting one in his head? And he's like, I saw my front sight, John. I absolutely believe you saw your front sight. Are you telling me you knew that you were putting it in his ear? I absolutely saw my front sight, John. I'm like, Jack, I'm not saying that you put that on the center of mass and healed that and Jesus looked down from heaven and said, I've had it with that guy. I'm not saying that, but it sure looks like that.